Hello, how's it going, guys? Welcome back again. My name is Ben Jacobson. I'm the digital marketing strategist for Page One Power here in Boise, Idaho. And we're back again with another episode of SEO from Home. For those of you who have not caught any of our previous episodes, the goal for this series is to hopefully provide you guys with some valuable insight and some actionable information here to get out there during these somewhat uncertain times and try to work on your SEO game. If you guys missed any of those previous episodes, they are now available for you guys to watch on our website at pageonepower.com, or you can also find links to those anywhere on our social media. Today we have a super special guest for you guys. He is the Director of Content for Siege Media, Vince Nero. Vince is going to be presenting his tips for your content marketing strategy during the coronavirus and beyond. So we're super excited for what he has in store for us. I'm going to be working to help field questions for him today. If you guys do have any of those questions, be sure to pop those into the Q&A box down at the bottom. I'll do my best to kind of field those real time if we can. If not, then we'll do our best to answer everyone's questions at the end. We're also going to be live tweeting today, so if you guys want to participate through Twitter, you can use hashtag SEO from home. Be sure to tag at Vince the Nero and Page One Power on Twitter, and we can participate that way as well. We're super excited to have Vince here with us today. Again, Vince, thanks for being with us. I'll go ahead and let you take it from here.
Cool. Thanks so much, Ben. Hi, everyone. Let me share my screen here. We'll get this going. Alrighty, cool. So yeah, like Ben said, I work Siege Media here. It's an agency in San Diego. We also have an office in Austin and New York City. I've been at Siege for about a little over 4 years. I'm Director of Content Marketing. This is me here on the bottom, dressed like a lobster. I do a lot of videos. You might have seen some, but our agency really focuses on SEO and link building, so kind of the intersection of the two, and just kind of content creation in general. And I've had my hands in a lot of different things. And today, what I'm going to be talking to you guys about is specifically content marketing during this whole mess. Now, this is deck that I'm sharing here is kind of loosely based off of this post that I did. I'm showing you here, and I'm going to try to elaborate on a few things. But if you've seen this, I'm going to dig into a couple more things, and I actually have another post that I'm kind of following up on this to kind of look beyond what we're doing right now and how the content marketing strategy should change. So, without further ado, going to jump right into here. The first thing that I'd like to talk about is kind of a no-brainer, I think, at this point. You're probably used to seeing this on sites, and if you're not doing it, it's something you should definitely consider doing. And it's just this idea of providing some type of status update on your homepage. So I got a couple examples here. Obvious example from Apple. If you have a retail store, for instance, like Apple does, just let your users know what you're doing. The status of the stores. Are they open? Are they closed? Are you doing walk up, drive through, that sort of thing? I was trying to find an example of a store that, or a website that maybe this wouldn't make sense. For some reason, I went to M&Ms in my head, maybe because I was eating them as I was creating this deck. But even M&Ms, they have a retail store, which I forgot, but even M&Ms has some type of update or status that they provide the users. I actually like the way that they do this here. If you click on it, it just opens this little simple box, a quick little message. It's super personable, helps them connect to their users a little bit, to their customers one-on-one. So this is something that's really cool that they've done. Here's an example from Intuit, TurboTax, which I'm sure you all know about. I'm going to be using this as an example, I think, a couple more times in this deck. I just really like what they've been doing and how they've been handling the dissemination of their information to their users. But relevant news, that's something that you also want to kind of flag for your users, and that's something that they do well here. Service delays, obviously this is a big one. So I chose Amazon for the example here. They, if you have any type of e-commerce site where you're shipping something, let your users know what's going on with the shipping. I've seen this in rental cars. I've seen this in, literally, I guess, any type of e-commerce store where they're shipping something. So you want to just keep people in the loop is the bottom line. This is actually, when I was searching for examples, I actually came across this from Harry's, which, typically, I guess, if we weren't in this self-quarantine, social distancing issue that we're in, this wouldn't really feel necessary for a brand to do. But in this case, the fact that Harry's is providing some type of, help with depression or anxiety with this special number that you can call or text, it doesn't really connect to the brand to me. But so normally, like I said, I wouldn't really feel like this is a great idea. But in this climate, I think this is awesome. It's kind of like this camaraderie. Everyone's doing what they can. So whatever you can do to help your customers kind of feel more safe and comfortable, which I'll kind of get to a little later in the deck. But this kind of encompasses that feeling for me. It's a brand that doesn't normally have this to say, but they've decided to kind of pull it together just to help people out. So that's number one, most obvious. Number two is developing your content hub. So if you have content around anything that has to do with coronavirus, social distancing, self-quarantine, working from home, that sort of thing, developing these hubs and putting all this information together for your users. This is something that you should link to from that little update or the homepage, and I'll get into that a little bit. Well, let's talk about, there's a couple different versions of this. So the full page hub, I'll zoom, using it as an example here, probably one of the most obvious examples just because everyone is on Zoom right now. And what I like about Zoom is they put a little bit, twist on this. They added some nice designs. They didn't go crazy. It's a mix of new posts and some older posts that they have. And it's just really helpful content. I mean, what we're trying to do here is put together content that's going to help inform people, keep them in the loop, educated. You want to help people out. So what better resource here for Zoom than to create something like this resource hub. So kudos to Zoom for putting that together. Here's another example, TurboTax. Like I said, I'm going to be referring to them a couple more times, but I like they update this daily because it is a list of news, hits, tax-related policy updates, anything that's coming down from the government, federal, state, that sort of thing. They're letting their users know. They also put some nice resources in there for how to navigate doing your taxes. Obviously, the tax day has moved, so people are things are up in the air. So keeping the users in the loop, that's something that they're doing here. And you can go back and forth. I mean, you can use the full page. Some people maybe don't have the resources or the time to do this sort of thing. So just a couple examples of kind of more of the blog post format. This is NerdWallet's. I like that it's basically a mix. They do blog posts, but they also put any of the resources they have, these calculators, these interactive elements that they have built these out on other posts. But at this point, it's kind of all hands on deck. Anything that's relevant, they're funneling into this hub. So that's something I really like there. And it's just really nicely organized. If you follow me on Twitter, I tweet about NerdWallet a lot. I really like what they are doing. Mint is another example of blog post format. As you can see, they even kept the sidebar related posts. So it can look a little funky sometimes if the sidebar content doesn't directly relate. This is where maybe the full page might be a little better, but at the end of the day, as long as you're providing resources, and that's what this is, it's pretty simple. They keep it updated frequently. They have a little note at the top saying that they're going to update it frequently. So, again, comes down to just letting the people know what's happening, keep them in the loop. That's the biggest takeaway from all of this. Now, do we want blog post versus full page? I mean, I kind of hit this, like at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter as long as you're presenting this information so that your users get it and understand what they're looking for. So I'd say do whatever you can do quickly, as long as it doesn't look like garbage. And if you need to, go back and update it. I mean, you can even tell, like Zoom, the illustrations maybe were put together more last minute, most likely, if you compare it to some of the other illustrated stuff on their site. So, at the end of the day, you're providing value, and however you can do it to your users. If you have to do a blog post, if that's all you can do, you don't have the dev resources, do it. Let people know and understand that you're updating this daily, even if it has a date stamp on it that's 2 weeks old at this point. So this gets a little bit now into kind of the SEO angles on these. So talking about headers, title tags, URLs, I think the general thing to do here is just look for opportunities to include these keywords that you can, so that it is relevant. The example here I'm showing is just, that Intuit page. They got coronavirus, that's in their URL slug. COVID-19 is obviously in their header. And it's actually ranking for coronavirus taxes, which, as you can see, is a trending keyword. So you can look for these opportunities using something like Google Trends to see, maybe you're in the rental car industry. Search for something like that on Google Trends and see if people are searching rental cars and coronavirus, seeing that's a trending thing. The one thing you don't want to do is force it into here. I was trying to find bad examples, and I stumbled across this one where, doing a search for fun games to play on Zoom. Not to call these people out, but, Kahoot.com, just put in the word coronavirus at the front of their title tag. To me, that it's not a natural fit there. It's not how you would naturally speak. And I think the good general best practice for any title tag, any SEO, any content is to speak normally. Don't try to force any of this in there. So here's an example of what not to do. It's pretty obvious. So, you're not out to manipulate people. You're not out to take advantage of this situation, obviously. So this is an interesting thing to think about too, just site architecture for a lot of different brands now. I think what they're seeing is different parts of their business obviously are greatly affected by this. So start to think about, the equity of certain links and placement and importance of placements of some of these links and content on your site. So here's an example of what we did. This is our blog homepage. The post that I did on content marketing during coronavirus, this was put onto our homepage, and it replaced another post that we had that used to be kind of an important post, like a pillar post of ours. But now this is the most important thing. We want to raise the visibility of this, let more people see it. So that's where this is at. When you're thinking about linking, I found this example going back for Delta. Obviously the airlines, they're greatly affected by this. Thinking about priority linking in the navigation or the footer, that sort of thing. So February 1st, you can see what the navigation looked like. April 13th, which is yesterday, you can tell that the priorities have changed a little bit. A lot more people are logging into Delta and looking for help, looking to change their flights. You can even see on their homepage, February 1st versus April 13th. This is the same exact section I screenshotted from using Archive, the web archive. You can see, it's pictures featuring their new international main cabin. The flight attendants are like standing on top of each other. People are cheersing, drinking wine. Obviously, this isn't the same type of content you want to be putting out right now. So they replaced it. Now it's all how to support their users through the journey, as they say, canceling flights, that sort of thing. So consider that sort of content and the placement of your most important content there might be some products that you have on your site that aren't going to be relevant for a while. If they require, things out to do outside or large groups, that sort of thing. So consider where you're putting them and what priority are you putting them on your site. And the biggest way to find these, if you're kind of unsure, is just look at the biggest changes between February and March, or even April at this point. This is going to be an ongoing changing thing. So if you're looking for dips in content like we're seeing here, this would be the new post that I would try to maybe prioritize somewhere or feature somewhere on my blog home or something, because it's getting so much more view during this time. So, all right. So now we're getting into just the idea of creating new, fresh content. You've kind of maybe established your site, you put your updates on the top, you've kind of figured out where things are going to go, but now it's time to kind of figure out what type of content to create. So this is getting into my favorite part. I don't know if people follow me on Twitter, this is like the thing I do is I just look online as much as I can and try to find different people's, sorry about that. I just try to find as much content as I can out there. So this is going to be a lot of great examples of content that I've found. But let's first start with this. I mean, this is an obvious thing, hopefully for everyone, but I couldn't help myself. I actually saw this on Rand Fishkin's post on SparkToro. Had to throw this in here just as a disclaimer of what you should not do. It's, clear example of what not to do. BMW, trying to exploit the flatten the curve thing. Super bad taste. Obviously, I'm sure somebody got fired or reprimanded in some way. So it's worth just saying again, we're not trying to take advantage or exploit things, these feelings that people are having, these troubles, hardships. You're trying to provide information, you're trying to inspire people. This is what your content should be doing. You want to make people's lives easier. They're stuck at home, some working full-time jobs, and they have kids running around, they have pets running around. You just want to make it easier for them. So that's kind of where your head should be at with all this. So let's get into some tactics on how you can try to find some ideas out there, because there are some great ideas out there. The first one is just this idea of trying to find publisher content. So, your major publishers, your New York Times, your Wall Street Journals, they're probably going to be doing this the right way, but there are some smaller sites that are, with publishers, a lot of times they have more strict guidelines on design, for instance. So maybe they're not able to use, they're only able to use stock imagery. They don't have customized images. They can't make an infographic, that sort of thing. So these are opportunities where you can kind of look to what the big brands are doing, because typically they are good at understanding where the audience is moving towards, and kind of try to copy what they're doing and use it as a jumping off point. So again, not to call anybody out here, this is just an example that I found from Realtor.com. It's a post on just like DIY living room projects that you can do while you're in quarantine. Great idea, but their limitations are such that they just use stock photos for everything. So it's not that inspiring, it's not that helpful. You're not really informing or showing people how to do these fun living room products. It's more of just an idea. So, maybe you could create something, take this, level it up, provide some instructions on how to do these DIY living room projects. Take some pictures. Everyone's at home. Take some pictures of your living rooms. Find your coworkers, get some pictures of their living rooms and projects that they're doing. The DIY content, that sort of thing is really booming right now. So you can really lean on some publishers to find that sort of insightful direction for your content. Other place to check out that I pretty much frequent every day is Reddit. And you might not be super familiar with Reddit, but I think in general they're a goldmine for content. The 3 subreddits that you should check out are Cool Guides, Infographics, and Data is Beautiful. As a content creator, I think anyone in content marketing should try to be looped into this as much as possible because a lot of great stuff comes out of this. If you filter by top posts, you get a great sense for what people like. We talk a lot about looking to social proof. So when something gets a lot of likes or upvotes or links, traffic, these are all signals that this is a good idea. This is something that people like. So here's something I found. This post illustration somebody did on Reddit. It has over 1,000 upvotes. That means people, gave it thumbs up over 1,000 times. And they basically just took data from some other source and made it a little more accessible with some friendly visuals. They do this hand-drawn style here. I really like it. This is something you can easily build off of. This is something that if you know that 1.4K people are upvoting this, that is something that people like. So, maybe you can elaborate on this, maybe find more things, more ways to clean surfaces and do it in a similar fashion like this. So using these as jumping off points. If you're not sure, you don't want to dive into Reddit, this is a great tool, Exploding Topics. I think it's, has spun out of Backlinko. Brian Dean as part of this. You can sign up for, I think it's a weekly, it's either weekly or monthly newsletter, but you can also go on the site and it shows you these types of metrics where they basically just look at new trending topics and search volume, Google Trends, just to kind of understand what is really jumping out. As you can see on here, bread recipe is really big. So remember that. I'm going to come back to that one, but their vanilla extract, these are things people are searching and they're really obvious once you start digging into it, like what people are doing these days. So Google Trends, similar to Exploding Topics. I mean, this one, it's going to be a little tougher for you to find trends. This one, it's easier if you kind of dig in and search them yourselves, whereas Exploding Topics will surface them for you. I found Google Trends, you kind of have to do it manually, and that's where it's most effective. So just finding whatever it is, what topics you're looking for, what industry you're working on, and kind of looking at different topics to kind of understand. But I mentioned the Exploding Topics, the bread one. How to Bake Bread is trending, as you can see in the past couple of weeks. People are sitting at home baking bread, vanilla extract, they're cooking, they're baking. This is really informative as to kind of just what where people are right now. People are becoming their own barbers. People are searching how to cut your own hair. They're in quarantine. You haven't been out to the barber for a while. This is this type of thing that's important to people. Toilet paper hoarding. Obviously, how long is toilet paper last? People are searching that, and because they're worried that they're going to run out of toilet paper. I know this is kind of a played out thing, but this is for real, and you'll see. I have another piece of content that kind of ties into this as well. But this is another great newsletter, and I believe they're on Instagram as well. I think is where I first found them. But Charter, they've basically taken what I just did here and plotted it out for a bunch of different queries here. Wine delivery, playing The Sims, like that. Obviously, people are searching differently because everyone is at home right now. So looking for these types of trends can help inform your strategy and where you should kind of pivot into. So real quick, I just want to show some other great content from other brands and things that people are doing that I think really fit into this, and how you can kind of think about fitting your content into the situation that people are in. So this is Kitchen Cabinet Kings. How long does it take food to spoil? It's basically just an infographic that lists every type of food that they could think of, and they talk about how long it lasts in the pantry, in the fridge, in the freezer. I don't know if you saw, Google actually even put out a post today that talks about how different people are searching, and one of the things there they even mentioned was freezing food. Clearly this is an issue. People are stuck at home, like I said. They're getting food deliveries, or they're going to the grocery store, but sparingly, so they want to see how long things last. So this is content that solves a problem. obviously this is where you want to kind of lean into at this point. Visual capitalists, this infographic kind of blew up. People love this type of complete guide, every single version of whatever this is, just a deep dive into pandemics. Every single pandemic in history was plotted in this kind of unique 3D way. Visual Capitalist is great for inspiration in any regard. We do a lot of infographics at Siege, so this one really stuck out to me. But this is an example of kind of leaning into topical content right now. Delish, recipe site, they created this whole post. It has some interactive elements. It's not like a traditional content post. They went a little bit above. Ties greatly into their brand by providing recipes, but it's just basically how to throw a virtual dinner party. One of the things I wanted to point out with this one too is just something to think about when you're creating content in this scenario, in this environment. Everyone is online. You're vying for a much larger audience, and just kind of throwing something together just to get it out there. While that might be good in some regards, because then you have the content out there, maybe you're satisfying your higher ups, your CMOs or what have you. If you're in a bigger brand, you get that direction to just throw something out there. Just consider that this is also a great opportunity to stand out, and it is worth going a little extra, putting a little extra into it, going a little extra mile here to make your content a little bit more unique. So what Delish did here, it could have just been a blog post, but they chose to kind of put this unique design on it, which I thought was really cool. So keep that in mind as well. This last one I found last night, I wanted to just throw in here because I thought it was awesome. Lonely Planet, it's a travel site. Obviously, the travel industry is getting really hit really hard right now. They took this idea and just, super simple, visiting UK's biggest landmarks from the comfort of your own sofa. If you look at the post itself, it's basically just a listicle of different links to 3D tours or YouTube tours of these different landmarks. Super low effort, so it kind of goes against what I just said. But I think that creativity and uniqueness of this idea kind of still levels it up in a creative way. But I just think this is a great idea of a brand that's clearly struggling, but they kind of figured out a way to pivot their content into what the new normal is, where people's heads are at. So that's all the brand content. But let me just show you a couple more of these fun non-brand content. This is stuff that I've found out there that will hopefully kind of inspire you and just kind of get you thinking in the level I'm talking about here. So this is a site. This is basically like a generator, a list of all of these jobs that you can take right now that are online. So that it's I guess you call it like a microsite. You can filter out for certain companies and certain types of jobs, but they're all online jobs that you can do. This is the type of thing that could easily, be an infographic or be on the Indeeds of the world, or any of these other job search type sites. This is the type of content that people want right now. They're all working from home. A lot of people lost their jobs, so this is creative content that kind of nails that and fills that void. This super simple shopping list generator, this is something just someone randomly made. I could easily see this being something that a bigger brand could do and do well, with a lot more resources. They could probably spruce this up, but as core, clearly, this is something solving a need. How much do certain things last? Or how much do you need to get based off your family size? They do it in grams, which is a little weird. I don't think I ever think of it that way, but that might be one way you want to upgrade it or enhance this kind of content. But getting inspired in this way, this is something that I look for to get inspired. We mentioned before seeing that a lot of people were searching for cutting your own hair. I found this. This is something that came out recently. The site is just, you probably need a haircut. This guy is basically just selling haircut tutorials where you set your camera up in front of him, show him the back, and you cut your own hair, and he says, oh, try it this way, now angle your scissors this way and do whatever. Just thought this was super interesting and clearly fulfills that need if you're looking at Google Trends. And that's how you can kind of connect the dots. The toilet paper one, obviously everybody knows about this, but thought this was funny, worth putting in here. How much toilet paper do you need? How many days do certain amount of rolls last you? So based off of how many, toilet visits you have every day. But clearly this is solving a problem that people have, and that's the name of the game right now. So that's kind of the current state of things. And this last section of the talk here, I want to just get into thinking about what's next, right? So we still kind of don't know what the next step is going to be. We don't know the dates. We don't know our businesses are going to open all right away. Our business is going to slowly, just restaurants. They're only going to let a few people in. We're going to be able to go to sporting events, all these certain things. People don't know. But I think it's important to kind of keep your strategy in line with whatever the new normal is going to be. So first thing to do is kind of understand what your current content calendar is. There are those major holidays, there are those major seasonal keywords that you're trying to rank for, but understand now that these are going to change, right? This is the clearest example as I could find. Taxes, obviously tax day is now pushed into July. So these peaks that you've seen year over year over year in Google Trends here, it's going to extend into June and July and maybe even into August. Who knows where this is going to go, but this is this sort of thing that you need to plan for, you need to be aware of. But this is an easy way to kind of understand where you need to go with things. So, if you know your keywords, look it up on a Google Trends, or here's another example using Ahrefs. Ahrefs shows you trending topics, search volume for different months of the year, obviously. So barbecue ideas here. This is July, I believe. Do we know if people are going to be having barbecues in July? Maybe, if we're out of social distancing, out of quarantine. But if not, maybe this keyword peak shifts to August. Maybe people are, once we get out of quarantine, it's, into September, into October even, who knows? But this is the kind of thing that you want to keep aware of. There's other keywords that you might have or content you have planned already. Earth Day, for instance, is next week. Obviously, if people aren't allowed to go outside, Earth Day is a little different, right? So, it's an article I found about Earth Day going digital. Is this what the new content is going to look like? Cinco de Mayo, it's in a couple of weeks. What's that going to look like? Social distancing. I just did a quick search on here to see if people are talking about it. Doesn't really look like anything's brewing right now. Maybe people just don't know what to talk about. Memorial Day, obviously it's in the end of May. People are already canceling parades. So what does that content look like? What are we doing for Memorial Day to honor, servicemen? That it's going to be virtual fireworks. Are people going to be barbecuing? It gets back to that. Everything is up in the air, but kind of playing out these scenarios to understand what the new normal is. That's where you want to be at with this. As we get into summer, obviously vacation season, are we going to be wearing masks on the beach? That's the first thing that I thought of. I just did a couple quick Google searches. We could probably look to overseas for how things are shaking out, but apparently, people are wearing masks in Hong Kong on beaches, and they're causing trash issues. Is that going to be a new topic to write about? This is the only other article I could find about nudists on a nude beach don't wear face masks by police. So maybe we will. Maybe it's going to be a police enforced thing once the summer rolls around. If you live, I live in San Diego. That's top of mind clearly for everybody here because the beach is such such a big part of the culture. So just kind of playing out these scenarios and understanding what the new normal is, trying to get ahead of that with your content. So just quickly, a couple ways to think about this transition. The easiest thing to do is kind of think about these like transitional terms, I guess you could call them, terminology, and try to incorporate them into your keywords, into your title tags. So, I think coming out of this, these are going to probably be some of the bigger concerns. Safety, obviously, cleanliness, how to keep clean, how to stay germ-free. But if we are, still social distancing to an extent, some people are maybe working from home half of the time, there's still going to be that need for virtual things. So, it becomes safe party ideas instead of regular party ideas, remote party ideas, virtual party ideas. And thinking about it even a step further, this, might not be the perfect example here, but title tags. Right now, clearly party ideas are still party ideas, any party ideas, but Google is good at understanding certain trends, seasonality. If you search for a hat in the winter, they're going to show you cloth wool caps. If you search for a hat in the summer, they're probably going to show you more like baseball caps. And I think that principle will probably still apply in some of these cases. So, you're looking at party ideas. If no one's allowed to go outside, maybe party ideas, they start ranking content that addresses indoor party ideas, addresses safe party ideas. Those sorts of keywords are the things that are going to help you stand out in the SERP anyway, if that is still a concern. So kind of thinking ahead in that case as well. That's, changing the meta description. That's not a ranking factor, but, studies have shown that people look to that, and that is a big reason why people click on certain content. So adjusting meta tags, if you do change your content that you already have on there for your party ideas, using this as an example, change it up, make sure you include those keywords as safety, germ-free, remote, virtual, that sort of thing. So, the biggest thing to remember is just content in general. It needs to inspire and inform. You're not trying to take advantage of these situations. You shouldn't be trying to manipulate content that you already have existing to fit into these just to get search volume. You want to actually help people. People can read through BS pretty easily, I think, and especially just like this, these are the times that you start to see marketing books being written about brands that pivoted in certain ways. These are the times that brands stand out. These are also the times that brands fail miserably in front of the audience, like the BMW example that I showed you. This last little thing here, I didn't put the link here, but I thought this was great. This designer took these, she designed all these, vintage looking travel posters, just based off of, doing things at home. There's another one about like surfing the web, this one's taking a trip to your bathroom, like you're in a pool. Just a fun little thing here. So remember, you're out there to make people smile too. This can be a dark time for a lot of people, but there are people doing great stuff out there. There's a lot of great content out there, and you want to be one of them. So try to embrace it as much as you can. Try to find these types of examples and pivot your strategy accordingly. So that's it. Let's open it up for questions at this point.
That was fantastic. Thank you so much for that, Vince. There was a lot of super great information in there, and I think it is really important to address that. I think so many people have seen the bad examples of kind of what happens, and seeing the BMWs of the world out there that are making those mistakes. And I think so many people are afraid of being that person, that they're almost they're almost like overcompensating for it and drawing too far back. And I mean, I know that's even a conversation that I've even heard, within our company and within our clients and stuff. I think a lot of people have valid concerns that they don't want to come across as taking advantage of the situation. So I think it's important to the way that you kind of addressed and looked at different ways to pivot and to view that through a different lens to put it in favor of your client so that they're actually getting real value out of that. So that was really cool.
Awesome. Thanks.
Yeah, of course. So we'll open it up. I'm not seeing any questions here pop through. We'll give you guys just a couple more minutes as we're kind of getting this wrapped up. Again, I did want to say thank you again. We really super appreciate you being willing to hop on. Again, we're going to be recording this this episode here today, and that should be up online for you guys to watch. Hopefully later today. If not, then definitely by tomorrow. That way, if you guys didn't get a chance to view all of it, or maybe you had to pop out for part of it, watch all of it that way. That'll be up on our website, pageonepower.com. Yeah, I'm not seeing any other questions. Let me check one other. So actually, I do see one question that came in. So I see, how do you outreach for links during this time?
That's a great question. Actually, the next post that we did at Siege covers a lot of this. And I actually have a link to it in my deck, so I can definitely share that and highly recommend checking that out. Another content marketing manager, Katie from Siege, did a whole piece on this. But when it comes to the actual content ideation, I think you want to look at it in those specific lenses. Like, we had to kind of pivot a lot of the content that we're doing at this point, just because a lot of it isn't relevant. We have content about taking road trips. We have content about, really just not pivotal topic, topical content that it seems trivial. That is not pivotal. Very trivial stuff right now. And in some regards, people are looking for the total opposite. They're not looking at coronavirus news constantly. But understand that people have new priorities, and journalists, especially if you're pitching for links, they have a lot different priorities. So I think you just kind of have to look at it in that lens. Next week is Earth Day. So, if you're going to pitch something for Earth Day, you can still pitch it, but it should at least be, in the loop of what's going on. You might still have to add a few paragraphs in there, or tweak your images, or tweak your messages so that you're addressing what's going on. The worst thing you can do is just have tone-deaf content that doesn't address anything and acts like it's not even happening.
Sure.
Even if it is just one sentence in there that says, we all know you're all struggling, but here's something completely different. And same with pitching that. So when you're pitching, we always try to make sure our pitches have that empathy in there. So, you want to make sure people are staying safe. You want to try to tie your content obviously into what they're writing about, and make the connection for them, so it doesn't seem like it's coming out of left field, or it doesn't seem like you don't know what's going on, or that you're being totally tone deaf. That's probably the easiest way to explain it, is just to kind of have a foot into reality in some of these things, even if you're pitching something that's a little different. Just make sure that you're acknowledging it in some way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you definitely want to make sure that you're acknowledging it. It doesn't have to be, at least what we've seen is, it doesn't have to be super on the nose. I think people are obviously afraid of that, and I think you don't have to go straight into, well, we know that we're all in this terrible.
Yeah, yeah.
Be subtle about it and still get the point across, I think, very effectively. So
Yeah.
that's a good point. Um, Andrew's asking, have you played any good Nintendo Switch games lately?
What have we've been playing Drawful a lot these days. I don't know. That's like one of those you don't know jack type games, but you can get a lot of people going there. It was like 80 cents or something on the Switch store. So
Sounds
yeah.
Alice asks, are there any topics that have been received negatively by editors or website owners? And also, how do you make your content emails stand out when the reporters are being currently bombarded? So kind of a two-part one there.
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of any outright negative responses that we've gotten. I mean, I can think of instances when what we've gotten more so is just reporters or journalists just saying like, I normally cover this beat, but now we're solely covering coronavirus updates, so I can't even cover this. So it's more so just like a status thing. I think the biggest probably takeaway there is just to make sure you look at what they're writing currently. If they're because a lot of journalists, in the press industry, whatever, are getting laid off. Sports writers or other lifestyle writers where it's not as not getting the page views or whatever because it's not as topical anymore. They're getting shifted over into different industries just to cover coronavirus. So make sure you're just checking to see what they're writing. But yeah, I mean, in terms of making it stand out, that's tough. I think just best practice is really I don't think you want to try to manipulate, like you said, Ben. It's like people are probably getting tired of hearing those types of phrases like the times are tough these days for everyone, and here, like, I think there's ways to address it so that you're not belaboring the point, I guess, is kind of the concern there. So don't really have a great answer for you on that one on just how to stand out, but just stick to your guns and make sure you're giving great content. Hopefully the content should speak for itself.
I had another question come in. Have you noticed any big changes in the SERPs? Are there any specific industries where rankings are fluctuating more than others?
Yeah, I mean, like looking at some of those examples, trying to think of some of the clients. I mean, there's certain clients definitely that I've had where just search volume has completely dropped off. I mean, the obvious answer is like any publishers are getting a lot more traffic. Though we are seeing, it's like an inverse because they're getting a lot more traffic. Sometimes the click-through rate is a lot lower just because of the influx of traffic. But yeah, anything that has to do with doing things at home. I've had one client where their whole business is pretty much shot, but we did one piece about, it tied into their industry, but it was like activities you can do at home with your kids that tied into that industry. And that was the only piece that got any traffic. So I'm sure there's plenty of other sites that are seeing that sort of thing. I wouldn't be surprised if, I kind of touched on this a little bit, but I wouldn't be surprised if Google starts to address some of these, whatever this new normal, as I was calling it, turns out to be. I think Google is going to start kind of changing the SERPs accordingly in that same way that they do seasonally. Certain sites will rank for certain keywords seasonally. So if certain sites are no longer relevant, if people aren't, I don't know, if people aren't flying right now, it's like, is Delta going to be ranking for some of those long tail keywords that, maybe it's not their core keyword. So they might start seeing some of those long tail things that aren't super relevant to them that they used to be able to rank for just due to the strength of their domain, it might give a shot for some of these lower sites to come and take some of that search volume.
Yeah, that makes sense. And let's see, I have one last question pop in before we get wrapped up. Have any of your clients paused or canceled due to the pandemic? And if so, do you have any tips for handling these situations?
Yeah, unfortunately they have. I mean, I think the first thing that we do obviously is to reach out to them and make sure everyone's good in the same way that you would, family, this is, we're all in this together. That sort of mentality should cover, should spill over into like how you manage your clients, right? Do it from a personal level. Some of the things that we've tried are just, trying to lower the amount of content that we do, shifting the strategies completely, offering to shift the strategies if they haven't already offered or asked for that. I mean, the more you can get ahead of that and plant that seed in their head, that might help them or keep them from completely, dropping off. The other thing I was working through actually more recently was just kind of this sense of, if you are a content marketing agency, how can you help affect and level up some of the other agencies? If you're in SEO, how does your work make sure that you're explaining how your work affects, the social team and how it affects the email marketing team? And are there things that you can do as an agency that can be value adds to those other sections of a person's site? So you're not just the SEO agency, you're not, you're providing value so that other areas also depend on the work that you're doing. They see that, hey, maybe they have 3 agencies, one that does email marketing graphics and one that does the graphics for whatever blog and one that's just the SEO. If you, the SEO agency, have a design side, can you also provide some value into those other areas? Make sure, the clients know that sort of thing. And I think that the more that you can kind of ingrain yourself in different aspects of what they do, the more valuable you'll become, obviously.
Absolutely. Vince, thank you so much for joining us. We super appreciate it. I know
Thank you.
it was kind of what a last minute. We've been kind of building the plane as we fly it. So
Yeah.
you being willing to jump on and offer such awesome information, especially surrounding something like I mentioned that I think a lot of us are a little on, wanting to make sure that we address properly. So we really appreciate it.
Yeah, and thank you guys. This was great. I love, I think what you're doing is a great example of everything I'm talking about. Pivoting this into what this new normal is. Everyone's working from home. There are no, the Search Love conference got canceled here in San Diego. People are looking for this type of thing. So you're filling that need, and I think that's awesome.
Cool. Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. I mean, that's really what we're aiming for. We're trying to do something to, keep the education coming, keep people engaged and involved. And yeah, I mean, I think it's cool. We appreciate you joining us. If there's any other questions or anything like that, actually, one did pop in. Can we have you hang on for one more second here?
Oh yeah, let's do it.
How would you convince a client that it's better to keep posting content rather than to wait for the pandemic to end? I think that's a really good question. I wanted to get to that when I saw that pop through.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it kind of gets back to what we were saying, where not everyone is going to be super relevant. But if you can kind of think of a way to do it, look at Lonely Planet. They're a travel specific site. You would think that they wouldn't be doing that sort of content. They wouldn't be doing any content right now, but they were able to kind of creatively figure out a way to do it so that they could still stay in the like travel niche, but create content that fits this new audience or fits this new normal where their audience is now. So if you can come up with ways to do that, I think it's worth it. You know, whether or not they want to versus going forward. I mean, I think you could always make the case that depending on the type of content you're doing, I mean, if it's search driven content, it's more important that, you know, SEO is a long game. So it's like more important than ever to not stop what you're going to be doing. If you need to rank for something 2-3 months down the line, pausing is only going to hurt them. You know, you want to be able to hit the ground running as soon as the train starts moving again. You know, the economy kicks back up, people start going and spending money. So you want to be in a position to succeed. So, you know, I think looking at it from that lens, 2-3 months out, if your content is not going to be ranking when it should, you know, that's an easy win right there. That's an easy way to kind of explain it to a client who doesn't want to keep going. But yeah, trying to think creatively and figuring out ways that you can kind of pivot the content into the new normal, as I'm saying, like Lonely Planet or like some of those other ones. Just trying to solve needs for people. That's probably the best way to think about it.
Cool. Well, I think that'll wrap it up.
Awesome.
Thank you again.
All right, Ben.
We'll have
Thank
to
you.
soon. Stay safe, stay healthy.
Yeah, you too.
Talk to you soon.
All right, take care.
Later.
Bye.